Chapter 1 of the Gray versus Hakune fight has concluded, and with Gray breaking out of Hakune's whole ice fantasy, I'm just going with what the chapter was called, the icy fantasy or whatever. But the only aspect of that has me slightly worried is not that Gray broke out of it. Is so far Hakune hasn't shown any like direct combat related skills, because she had like her ice copies. She had her diamond effect, where she like shuts off people's powers. I don't really know if Snow Waves was really gonna do much, but outside of that is then it's the ice fantasy kind of power. And so at the moment, she's done more classic caster type moves. And what I mean by that is a character kind of like probably the best example I usually use is Nineheart. He was Spriggan level, he was a Spriggan level character, but he wasn't designed to take damage. He was a summoner, and he wasn't like Lucy, where Lucy kind of broke out of the general summoner mold because she did fight like a regular summoner and built up like built up durability over time by just, taking beatings at a constant rate. Whereas Nineheart clearly didn't, and because of that, and the design of his magic and how obviously he fought, he didn't have a very high durability. And Hakune might be a similar setup in that. Whereas like Mimi was very durable, but she didn't have any crazy powers. Like with Yoko having way more of like a summoner set, I was hoping that Hakune would be kind of almost like a hybrid of like range attacks, kind of cast spells, as well as some degree of melee. Maybe not like punching and kicking, maybe because she could just do like close range attacks or something. The only thing, I'd say about that regard of why it could have me a little worried is if she's very much a classic caster, that means that once Gray gets close enough to really kind of do some damage, it wouldn't take a lot for him to defeat her if she is one of those characters. If she's way more durable than that, though, then way better hands for him. Anyway, the next chapter, I'm really hoping we get a focused fight, and then it's more like it's kind of like what we got with Lucy and Mimi. Like, their fight wasn't as long. Like, I would have kind of liked that fight to be like at least a half a chapter to a chapter more, just because I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more from Mimi or from Lucy. But I thought they did enough that I was okay with it. It wasn't like it wasn't too short. It was like a chapter and a half. We know that Mimi's powers, at least from what was demonstrated, weren't crazy. She essentially was designed to be an anti-summoner. Not like directly, but just like the way that her powers kind of were constructed, with obviously like her high durability, physical strength, and whatnot being the general opposite of what you're going to run into with an old style caster. And Hakune so far has she's done a really good job at setting her presence at being clearly the strongest out of the three Moonlight Beauty gods. But I'm hoping to see a little bit more of her moveset and her capabilities before the fight's over. Unless they die, there's the easy chance that they could do something again. Like, Mimi can easily, reveal like a different kind of attack in a later portion of the arc. Maybe she'll do something like a general, like, really high physical strength feat, where she maybe, like, rips up a giant chunk of rock below her and throws it or something. I guess that's not really that different of a move, but, something else that she can do. The only thing it would have to do is it would have to not be something that would be like, why didn't you use that against Lucy, kind of thing. But Hakune's clearly the strongest out of the three, and unless Selene kills her for failing, I assume, because it wouldn't surprise me if she killed the Moonlight Beauty gods for losing at this point. Maybe she'll be okay with them if she liked the fights, but with Hakune, I feel like that she will be in such a bad position, especially after we saw that when you have something like I would assume like the ice illusion that Gray was seeing, the whole hallucination that he was given would be similar to when Selene got really mad and Yoko had to go out there, and she was like saying how nothing was distorted, nothing was warped. She was unhappy that the kind of like in reality kind of like messed up setup that they had didn't really work. She wanted to see people just kind of break essentially in front of her. So, the fight between Hakune and Gray, I can see concluding the next chapter. I'm kind of hoping it goes like another chapter and a half, just because this is the bigger fight out of the three of them. Like Mimi versus Lucy was more like seeing Lucy get a spotlight. We know that they're gonna win. Like these aren't even the big matches probably gonna be in this arc for these guys. These are the like opening to mid area battles. And Hakune being the strongest, as well as I think their matchup is the strangest, but also the most interesting. Just based off of, obviously Ice versus Ice. You have an elemental mirror match, and Hakune's Ice is very OP. We can have Gray get an upgrade from it. There's a lot of stuff that could happen that I think is the more interesting aspect about their fight. And I'm hoping we'll get something in the next chapter. And I think that a higher end level of Gray's Devil Slang is the most likely option, probably the best option we have, especially when we see him in the chapter using it to just kind of like go and attack, similar to when he used it against when he used it against the Thunder Legion. He was just relying on the boost of physical strength and stuff from just having like a devil modified body. So if we get something like that, and maybe see Gray with like a higher end version, and then maybe just focus on melee attacks, because again, if Hakune if she's not built for taking hits, then that's going to be Gray's best bet, because we see him using ice attacks and she's able to freeze them and then shatter them before they get to her. So if he just focuses on that, as well as maybe using his ice more for like counteracting and neutralizing hers, so just kind of like adapting to it and then consuming her ice and stuff like that, I think that's Gray's best bet. We've already seen like his direct melee attacks are going to, like, she's just dodging them. She's not dodging his ice moves because she can deal with them. So I'm hoping Gray takes notice of that and then focuses more on that, because it's something that will really benefit, I think, him as well as not just in the fight, but as a fighter, because it will open up a little bit more range for what he can do, and as well as it would put him in a spot where he's got to, for the most part, try some new styles. Because Gray's had some like fights in melee range, but it's very rarely down to physical strength, throwing hands, and kind of more brawling rather than using like his Ice Make or his Devil Sling stuff. So this fight, again, is the one that I've been most hyped for in regards to the Moonlight Beauty Gods. And it's not just because Hakune's the leader, or at least the strongest out of the three of them. It's more of like, I really wanted to see this matchup specifically, because I'm very intrigued with what the plan is going to be, how Gray exactly overcomes her entirely, and how he plans to defeat her. Just based off of like what we got with the opening kind of techniques with Hakune. Gray not having any upgraded powers yet revealed. He should have the Transcendent Magic just from being an Elentier. So we could get that moment maybe next chapter. Like, I think the best case scenario is the next chapter is a very fight focused. It's kind of like how, again, Mimi versus Lucy was, where it's very much you're just seeing attacks. You're not getting a lot of dialogue. You're getting a lot of just like good close shots and maneuver shots of characters moving around and fighting and whatnot. And then ends with like something about Gray's new upgrade. Like imagine the very end of the chapter, last 2 pages, Gray increases his Devil Slang attribute in his form, and then grows like a horn or a claw or something. I do think that is the best option. If it's literally just like the fight ends next chapter, again, the only thing I would really say for sure that I want is Gray to show what his Transcendent Magic is, because that's the bigger thing to me. I can wait for more Gray character content, and I don't need to see everything he can do, but given like being bi-weekly with 100 Years Quest, and I would imagine, getting back up, we're probably going to get, like, we haven't really had much focus on, like, fight-wise for, like, Wendy and Natsu so far this arc, so I would assume that they would get a fight again before, like, we get another match with Gray, or another match with Lucy. So, hyped, mildly impatient, but I feel like what I want for the next chapter is something that's way more, like, it's very easy to understand what's going on, and even though, like, it's probably the most predictable idea of, like, a fight chapter. Gray, utilizes his new Transcendent Magic, and then following that chapter is able to defeat her. But I feel like that's the That's the best option, I think, in terms of just like the execution as well as how I think a lot of fans would like it. Because I do know that Gray, like, people haven't gotten a lot of Gray in 100 Years Quest, and that has been a little bit of a... It's been a little bit of a topic, a little bit of a concern. It's not like it's like Gray's ruined because he hasn't gotten like any crazy fights in 100 Years Quest. It's more like they just want some more Gray content. Like when you see all these other characters in the main cast getting like new powers and new techniques and stuff, and Gray hasn't gotten any, it just feels like he's getting left behind a little bit. Again, he's been way more focused on his own personal character. Like when everything that we've gotten really in 100 Years Quest about Gray has been on him as an individual and his stuff with Julie and stuff. But I would really like to have a cool battle where we see Gray get some new stuff so it doesn't feel like he's being forgotten about. And again, I know that he's clearly not, because it's been character driven more aspects for Gray, but I think given the fact that overall it still is an action battle series, that Gray kind of needs it in order to kind of feel like he's keeping up with the other characters, you know what I mean? But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but friend, like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. From that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.